is the process right now with the players as you wrap up the season and you meet with guys and kind of discuss their outlook in the program?
Met with the team on Monday. Coaches are meeting with players today, and then I will meet with every player tomorrow, Friday, and then if anything spills over into the next couple of days. I've taken the last couple of days and met with some of the seniors. Excuse me, guys, not coming back, just trying to help them with their plans, making sure they have a good setup. But so every player will meet with, their position coach, coordinator if they want, and then meet with me as well.
It's another process question. When you think about how you review the previous season, how do you kind of go about doing that? And how has that maybe evolved since you started as a head coach?
It's a great question. I try to look at it in a bunch of different lights. I try to get feedback from the players as one. Feedback from the seniors. Like talking to Luke Reimer. Would you do it over again? Talking to the older guys. Getting feedback from the staff. Not just the coaches, but everybody in terms of the process and the way that we do things. I think when you come to a new place, you have to figure out that place and the rhythm and of everything. And so everything from the schedule to the meetings to, we have a unique thing in that we're moving into a new building at some point, but just trying to get all the feel for that. And then I try to go back and look at the season. I try not, obviously the football. Right now a lot of it is the roster, but as we move, there's not a ton of time really to, you don't get too much time right now if you want to do a great job with the roster and with the current players. But when the emotion's gone and all that's done, I try to make sure I go back and look at everything and just sort of say, hey, what did we do well? What did we not do well? But more importantly, why, right? Why do we do these things well? Why do we not do these things well? When you have an ending the way we had, you have a tendency to dwell on the negative things. Keith handed me a document of all the positive things that we had done, and that was probably pretty good for me to look at, just to see all the growth. And then you can then begin to attack, hey, what are the other areas we have to grow in to make the jump that we want to make this year?
Do you feel like you have to address the quarterback situation in the portal by you going into the portal?
I think that the portal for me is I either want to. If we go to the portal, I either want to get someone with at any position, someone with multiple years, I think is on caliber with the guys that we have, or someone who's instant impact upgrade, like someone who can make a difference. Make no mistake that a good quarterback in the portal costs, $1 million to $1.5 million to $2 million right now. So just on the same page, right? So let's make sure we all understand what's happening. So. There's some teams that have $6 or $7 million players playing for them. So, we just kind of believe in doing things like the old school way, the hard way, building. But that doesn't mean we won't look at people in the portal. We did it last year, right? It just means they have to be clearly an impact player for us if they're like a one-year player, or they have to be someone that has multiple years to get in our program and develop. So. When I go back and look at our quarterbacks this year, obviously, everyone can look at the negatives, the turnovers and all those things. I also see a lot of positives. I saw a lot of positives in the way that Chubba played. I say to myself, if Chubba had played more throughout the course of the year, would he be further along, right? For whatever reasons he didn't, right? He got banged up and all those different things. Like, I think Chubba has a high ceiling. When I look at Heinrich, Heinrich wasn't even in quarterback meetings last year. Wasn't even allowed to go to the meetings. So, I'm really proud of him. And I just think with further development, those guys have 2 years left. I think they're going to be good players. And so, but I'm not stupid. It doesn't mean that I'm not looking for everything. I'm just, trying to be very diligent about the process and making sure that, we always think long term unless someone's like a huge impact player.
When you look back at Jeff's recruitment out of the portal and everything that happened from his initial recruitment all the way up to the end of the season, what sort of lessons can you take from that?
Well, I'm never going to say anything that's going to sound at all sound disrespectful towards a player. So, I think Jeff's an amazing young man, an amazing human that was there for his teammates every step of the way. had we started off with a couple layup games and, he got some confidence, maybe things would have gone better. He's really talented, can run, dynamic, can make all the throws, just turn the ball over too much. But I love who he is. I love the person that he is. So in terms of kind of what's the lesson from it? I just think it's true for everyone. I work for a guy named Marty Herney. Was a longtime general manager of the Panthers, and it was with me. They got fired after 1 year and went to the Washington Commanders. And he said to me, "Hey Matt, just remember they're all fourth-round picks. Like when you bring players in with like sort of this expectation, they're all fourth-round picks and they need time. And it's some you look at some of the portal quarterbacks that are having a ton of success." Penix and Nix and all those guys, like they've been there for a while, right? They've had a couple years to develop in that system, and so I think there's a lot of things to it. But I don't regret taking Jeff. I think Jeff's been an amazing teammate, and I've loved having him here. And I think he can do a lot of things to help a football team. I wish we would have done a better job by him, maybe in some ways, have helped him more. But I do think that we all have a tendency sometimes, and this is not about Jeff, just in general, to like forget that if some of the guys that we have went into the portal, people would be going nuts trying to get them. So like you just have to make sure that you value your own roster with as much respect as other people would if those guys went into the portal, if that makes sense. And so we're just trying to learn as we go about how to manage the portal plus high school recruiting.
Things happen every year with coaches, assistant coaches, and movement after the season. But if you have the option to have everybody back offensively on your staff, are you set with the responsibilities the way that they were this year, or would you look at potentially splitting up what Sat does between coaching the quarterbacks and coordinating the offense?
Yeah, I'm not ready to talk about that yet. I'm not there yet. When I hired Sat, the goal was to have a quarterback coach and have Sat coach the tight ends. It didn't work out. I think in the first year at a place like this, you get pulled in a lot of directions. And whereas some people think some of our coaches do a bad job, sometimes I think they did a great job. I think Terrence is a great young coach, but like I can coach. Let me be the D-line coach, coach Nash and Ty and Jamari. Like those guys are grown and they played a lot of football. So. I think a lot of our coaches did some of their best coaching jobs of the year, best coaching jobs. With that being said, the process that we talked about with Sam, like I'm going to go through that process, and every year I'll do that, and just figure out, especially now as the rules have changed a little bit, and you can have analysts, and now we hope that the FOC will pass, that analysts can coach a position. I think it gives you some flexibility to bring in some experienced coaches to help, and maybe they can't help on game day, but they can help throughout the year. I don't even know why there's even a rule against it. Like, what's wrong with having people that want to help young people? So there's a lot of things in flux. Obviously, you guys, Tony's name's been thrown around a bunch. There's a lot of things so instead of like, why rush? Just wait and see what's right. And part of that's having great conversations with the assistant coaches, which I did yesterday with some of them. Just, hey, what went right, what went wrong, and then just being really meticulous and making a really smart decision.
Matt, you talk about the dollars, just addressing quarterbacks. It can be for any position, though. Is that frustrating, the way where we're at now, with the dollars involved?
It is what it is. Yeah, it's no.
You could change them, would you?
I would not let people be able to buy people off another roster. It's so simple. Like you think about, you recruit somebody and you develop them for 2 years, and then someone comes in and takes them, and then that coach gets fired. It's like, well, he actually did a pretty good job. So, I just that part of it. But I think young people getting, I think the players getting a piece of their name, image, and likeness that makes sense to me. 100% makes sense to me. There's not one part of me that's ever had a problem with it. I was in the NFL and. I was an assistant coach. Every player made more than me. As a head coach, most of the players made more than me, or a lot of the players made more than me. Like, they're the ones out there doing the work. I have no problem with that part of it. I just the hey, let me come in and take you from the roster. That part is unique, but it is what it is.
I know you don't completely control NIL, right? I think this is outside of the university's control, but broadly speaking, what do you hope in terms of who gets rewarded with NIL deals, respected to these three categories? Returning players who have produced a lot for you, new recruits out of high school, players out of the transfer Like, which of those would you hope are prioritized in a Matt Rhule regime?
I want to be careful how I say that because I don't, again, because you're right. Like we can have no influence. We can't direct it. And one thing Bill Polian. I listened to Bill Polian talk when I was in the NFL, and he said, make sure that the highest paid guy on your team is not a free agent who comes in from the outside. No, this is the NFL. If you want to have a healthy locker room, let guys know that, hey, if you stay here, what you do will be rewarded. Name, image, and likeness is supposed to say that because of your name and what you do. People want to have you be associated with their business, their corporation, their charity, their foundation. So, I would always, I consider the guys on the team my guys. Right? I always want them to be taken care of. And then, that being said, we have to procure talent. We have to get guys that come in to make them our guys. I just don't. I'm just anxious to see like the teams in the college football playoff. How many of them, have guys who are, the whole team, not one or two guys. I'm talking about the whole roster. Like, was it a massive overhaul or was it kind of a lot of their own recruiting with some key additions? I think if you want to get to a certain spot, you should look at what those spots do. And my former coach of mine just got the Syracuse job and was at Georgia, and you look at Georgia, they're mainly high school recruiting, right, and keeping their guys, and so I think there's a lot to it. This is only my first. This is most guys' only second or third year doing it. This will be my second year going through this process. But the guys we brought in the portal last year, I want to make this like they've been amazing parts of this team. And I consider Ben Scott, I consider MJ Sherman, I consider them our guys. So. I just want the guys on our team to know that if they stay here and they're loyal, good things will happen to them.
I'm sure that's true of Georgia, but of course Georgia probably has a really robust NIL program for the recruits, the kids that are coming out of high school. Is that something that you feel strongly about, or is that challenging in its own way?
Well, I think that we're going to play under the rules that are here now, right? So if NIL is here to stay, which it is, then I think we're blessed to have 1890. I think they do things the right way, and they're helping us go get players. But Georgia's been recruiting well for a long time. Alabama has been recruiting well for a long time. We should recruit well, and we will recruit well.
Where do you see things as they stand with Tony White right now, and how do you feel about his? Obviously, he's been, as you said, his name's been out there. So I'm sure you've talked to him. Where do you feel it's at with him, and the likelihood that he's back?
Yeah, I don't want to speak for him. I've done everything I can to help him in terms of. I think wanting to be a head coach is awesome, right? And so, like I said last week, like anything I can do to help him become a head coach, I'm going to do. I've got two. For Fran getting the job at Syracuse, two guys that work for me now as Power 5 head coaches. That'd be awesome. If Tony gets an opportunity, that'd be awesome too. With that being said. I also think we'll be really good on defense again next year. And I think the opportunities that Tony has in front of him now will be there next year as well. I think he's an excellent coach. We have an excellent defensive staff, not just Rob, Terrence, and Coop, but the quality control coaches, Coach McGarry, Phil Simpson, Josh Bringwell, Jack Potenza, Shevin Smith. We have a really good young staff there too. So my goal always was I've never liked coming in and having to always go out and hire outside people to come in. After a while, it can start to feel very like mercenary-ish. I've always liked hiring really good young people and growing them up through and then trying to promote them. I think we have some guys there that can do that, but I'm hopeful for Tony that he finds if he gets the head coaching job that he wants. And but I do know that if he doesn't get one this year, then he'll have a chance to get one next year probably too.
Gifford, we're a couple guys who walked on senior day. Do you have any update on any of those guys? Or what's your message to those sort of veteran guys, those guys, Ben Hart, Ben Scott, as they think about what to do?
Yeah, I think Ben Scott's probably here with us. Like he was in the weight room yesterday, so I think Ben's coming back for another year. Bryce, whether it's Bryce, Gift, Bullock, I think they're probably all those guys are trying to make their minds up. It's a big decision, right? Especially when you're someone that like every NFL team's come in and asked about. It's not like you're not getting interest, right? So it's, hey, do I leave now and go here, or do I try to come back and elevate my stock? So we've just been there for them, provided information for them. I tell every guy, like, really think about this before you decide to come back, because the last thing I want is them to come back and then be like, man, I should have gone. So I want them to follow their dreams and chase their dreams. I think a lot of them are just kind of, again, you get done with that game, especially with the way the last 4 games went, coming down to the wire. It's just emotional. I told everybody this week, like, man, go play pickup basketball, go hang out with your girlfriend, go to class, like, get away for a few days, come back. Giff was in my office this morning. I think those guys they'll announce it when they're ready and make a decision on what they want to do.
Hey, Blaze Gunnarsson and Ty Hahn were 2 sophomores that walked. Are they moving on, or are they kind of in the same camp as far as their?
No, they're done. Yeah, Ty's got his degree. He's engaged. He's going back home to farm with his dad and going to open up a business hopefully. And I can't tell you how much I love and respect that young man. I mean, so it's one of the things where I brought him in kind of like, hey, I heard you're not coming back. What's wrong? And he started talking about being engaged and he's more mature than me. So he happy for him. And then Blaze done a great job for us. He's always had just some injuries and battled through some things, and I think he's ready to just kind of move on. If that changes, it might change at some point, but I think both those guys are done.
A lot of the freshmen got on the field last year. Does that decrease some of the need for portal additions? Seeing the growth that they've made and the path towards playing time they carved out. Yeah, well, I just think if you're looking at kind of the guys we signed last year, right? And you're saying, well, how did Jalen Lloyd do? What was the stat you said to me about Jalen Lloyd? Like 350-yard, him and Marvin Harrison tied for the most 50-yard touchdown catches, and he didn't play the first however many games. And Malachi certainly belonged out there, making big plays and big blocks. And Justin Evans Jenkins and Mekhi Bear, who were the previous class. I get that, but the guys we recruited, Cam Lenhart and Prince Will and Ethan Nation. I mean, I don't know why we wouldn't keep trying to do that. Keep trying to bring in guys of that caliber, and again, try to make this be a place where they everything they want they can get here. You have those guys over time. It's Ethan Piper came into my office and was like, you have these close losses down the stretch, and for the older guys and for many of the people listening to this, it's like, man, another year of all these close losses. Oh my gosh. For the younger guys, they don't know anything before, and for them, it's like, man, we were this close. Like, we got to get this much better, and so. That sometimes is the benefit of playing some younger guys. The guys we redshirted, like I said, I've talked about Dylan Rogers and some DeAndre Barnes, a lot of those guys. I think there's an excellent group of guys. James Williams came to us in a portal camp, and he was one of our best edge pass rushers, and we redshirted him, and he's got 3 years left. Kai Wallen, he was really good early. We redshirted him. He's got 3 years left. So I just don't know why we wouldn't keep doing what we're doing in terms of like recruiting young players and developing them. So, yeah, I think that does keep us – plus our roster is pretty maxed out. Like, we're not, like, at 75 where we have room for 10 guys. And just so we're on the same page, like, you don't get to make people go in the portal. They got to want to go. It's not like this thing only works one way. The players can transfer, but you can't say, hey, you got to go. And I'm not here to do that. I'm not here in any way to impact young people's lives adversely. Like, if they want to be here, as long as they know, like, hey, this is your role, I tell them that. But I just think we have a lot of young talent. Even in that last game, Sua Lefotu got in, played on the D-line against Iowa. Vincent Carroll Jackson played for the first time at nose. And those guys didn't look out of place. I mean, we played pretty good defense in that game. So I think that's just kind of our mindset. Like, let's just keep recruiting these good young players. I remember in the summer, I think, Mitch, one of you guys asked me, like, hey, some of these kind of unknown recruits. Well, some of those guys now are getting a bunch of Power 5 offers. And these guys that we were on first, I said, well, just, a lot of those guys now, they have other things. And it's at the point now where if someone's committed to us and they want to take some other visits, we have to almost let them go because we're over. We're just over. And we have to get the 85 scholarships. So there's a roster management piece to this that's a challenge. But I like the way we've recruited. I like the guys that are here, and I like the young players that played this year.
You alluded to it earlier, but the college recruiting game that you came back to is a lot different than the one you left. I mean, that first winter that you had last year, is there anything that you took away from that you plan to apply this year after having one under your belt?
Yeah, I think just the numbers game's way different. Before, there was a lot of limitations on who you could take and who you couldn't take. So just managing the roster and managing, I'm someone who's never been too caught up. Most coaches are very caught up in, we need 5 running backs, we need 6 of this. Like, I'm more like who are the ones, who are the blue dots, who are the guys who can change the game, and like, I don't believe you can ever have too many D linemen. You don't believe you can ever have too many O linemen. So like, you can, to me, you can find, if you find a good one, you take them. So, so with that being said, like, I think just kind of managing the new numbers, and then obviously the portal and the ability to move of the players is different, and I just had to get adjusted to it.
I know you probably haven't go completely into it, but just from a line of scrimmage.
Oh, my God. Coach, I am so sorry.
Could one of you guys zoom in on him?
I can't stop it. I apologize.
Why? That's the best thing that happened to me all day. My gosh.
I was listening on the way.
That's wonderful. Like we're all happy right now. Okay.
I know you haven't reviewed it completely, but just from a line of scrimmage perspective, offensive line, defensive line, how competitive were you guys this year, do you feel like, against the Big Ten?
I think that's a really good question. I thought defensive line wise, I thought we were as good as anyone. I was disappointed we didn't have more guys make all conference, but to the victor belongs the spoils. If you want to make all conference, you better win a lot of games. So that is what it is. But I thought Ty, Nash, those guys were as good as anybody. I thought the offensive line, at the end of the year, got significantly better. I thought they improved with some major injuries. Right, Nuri coming off a knee, losing Pipe, who, Pipe had, 3 or 4 of the best blocks of the year, losing Turner, guys having to step up. You look at Teddy. Teddy's never even really had a true, off season in the weight room, before last year. So I just think for our offensive line, I think that they just have to lift. They need another off season. I think it's going to be really good for them. Corey Campbell, Kristen, our nutritionist, I think they do a great job. And I think as the year went on, the way we practiced really benefited the offensive line. But that's the step to me this year is our tight ends, our O-line, just taking another step within the Big Ten and allowing us to be more physical at the point of attack. Some of the young players I think are going to be really talented young players. We have a young man who walked on last year, Grant Segrin, who's 240 when he was recruited and 295. We have some really good young players, and I think that those guys are going to come on as well. So, but I thought we were competitive, but not certainly at the level where at the end of the day, when you look at all those close games, you say to yourself well, we'd love to be able to control the line of scrimmage a little bit more, and end games, when you have a chance to, and that's just the process of developing those guys.
How do you feel about running backs? And I asked specifically about them just because of Gabe and Ramir coming off injuries here.
Yeah, I think all signs with Gabe and Ramir's injuries were that they'll come back and be fine. I thought Emmett did a great job and proved that he can be the guy. And you guys have heard me talk about Quentin Ives. I think Quentin's a star. I think he's got a lot of talent. We'd love to recruit one, but it has to be the right one. So I think those 4 guys give us a really strong running back room. I like those 4 guys. I love having a big back like Gabe, and obviously Ramir, as a return man, as a guy catching the ball in the backfield, can be explosive and dynamic. So I like that room. I'm anxious hopefully those guys come back completely healthy, but all signs have pointed in the right direction.
Is Marcus Washington looking to get another year, or is he moving on? What are the chances of that happening?
Yeah, Marcus has asked us to look into that. It would be a pretty complicated waiver, so I think that they're working through it. So I can't I can't give any idea of whether that would happen or not. But he, like a lot of the older guys, would like to come back. It's just a matter of if we can.
Is the D-line the place you feel most comfortable with? You had to take a position group where you do feel comfortable right now. Would it be D-line?
Well, I mean, probably just because they're the group with the least amount of turnover, right? You lose Blaze. Am I missing anybody else that we lose? So I think that's a group that you have a lot of guys coming back at, and I felt good about in the fall when they were that was the big question mark. I would say, guys, I'm telling you, I think we have a pretty good D line, and I think, like I said, for Sua to get in, for Vincent to get in. Kai, Mason Goldman's going to be a really good player. I mean, there's a lot of really good young talent in that room too. So, I would probably say that's a group that we feel pretty good about.
There's a metric that that labeled Nebraska as the unluckiest team in college football, and it's not the first time that Nebraska's been at the top of that list in recent years. How do you digest that, and do you feel that is an accurate description of where you guys are at with the type of close losses that you've had?
Yeah, I don't think we're unlucky at all. I think we have to get better. I mean, to me, that's part of the problem. Like, that's what I was saying earlier. Like for me, this is, man, we came in our first year. We got way better on defense. We figured out how to run the ball on offense better. Played great special teams. Man, we turned the ball over too much. We didn't win fourth quarter games. We were 5-7. We had 5 games by, basically 3 points or less. One went to overtime. I always count that as a 1-point loss. So by 3 points or less, like, I don't want our guys in any way feeling victim. What I will fight for is, like, again, I've talked about before is, again, I'm never going to complain about officiating. Replay bothers me. Replay bothers me that we lost 12 seconds in the last game when I'm standing on the field screaming, why is the clock not running? Replay bothers me that, there's the targeting that doesn't get overturned, and then Sunday they say, that bothers me. But, at the end of the day, like, to be minus whatever we were, minus 17, you're lucky to be 5-7. And so I won't make that the only storyline, because that takes, that lets too many people off the hook. Like, everybody's got to get better, but I don't see us as unlucky at all. I see us as a team that fought the hanging games that maybe if we wouldn't have fought as hard, we wouldn't have even been in, right? I mean, I watch some of them get scores at the end of the year. I'm watching Maryland roll at the end of the year. I'm watching, Illinois, Northwestern, they're scoring 45 points a game. I'm watching, I think we got in there, we competed in every game and fought and battled and had a chance in every game. It didn't make it happen down the stretch. So I don't think it's unlucky. I think it's like, hey, let's just go back. Let's go back through the same thing from a year. Let's get a little bit better in every area, and let's make close losses close wins. And that's been my history. That's what I've tried to do. So I'm already on to year 2 right now. I'm not even still on year 1 in my brain. I've already moved forward, and I'm ready to go. So
Those turnovers, they went all the way back to the spring game when you look back at it now. So as you start to move in that direction toward next spring, like, what can you do now? What can you do through the offseason to try to, I feel like we've asked a different version of this question every week, but what do you guys do to address that and try to fix it?
yeah, it's a great question. All right, and it's really like one of the questions that, like, I have to, like, really ponder, because even through the course of the year, like, I'd ask Coach Brown, like, what am I doing wrong, Coach? Like, what are we doing wrong? 'Cause I've never had this before. And I would probably put it into 2 categories, because the easy thing is, like, the coaches will say, like, well, if you fumble the ball, you're not playing. Well, we really didn't, outside of the quarterbacks, really didn't fumble the ball too many times. I mean, like, that wasn't about an appropriate ratio, right? Like, it was really the quarterbacks and the quarterback play. And so, like, the first thing, and get a new quarterback coach. I don't always think that that's necessarily right either. I mean, it might be right. I like to look through it and see it. I think making the protection better. I think making the run game better. I think maybe simplifying a little bit of what we do now that we kind of know. You can't. I can't explain enough. Like, after you go through a year and you've seen the league and you've seen the conditions you play in, like, you're sitting here and you're like, man, okay, now I know exactly how to attack this. It stinks that it kind of takes you a year, but and again, we tried to do it during the course of the year. I'd love to have a year where we only play one quarterback, where you don't start 3 quarterbacks, right? Like, that's a recipe for not being successful. So I just think it's a lot of little things. But to your point, how we carry the football and hold the football will be at the center point of everything that we do. Like, when I look back sometimes, like at Temple, like back when we were just a young group of coaches that, like every conditioning period, the offensive guys ran with the footballs. And as over time, as the sports science guys have been like, well, they need to do this and this. Maybe we don't do that. I'm probably going to be a little more old school and carry the football. I'm probably going to do some of those things. But I think the biggest thing we can do is, in every way, whether it's the routes that we run, the wideouts that we play with, the protection that we do, the run game, is make sure that everything is bent on having our quarterbacks be the most successful that they can be. And that'll fall on me. That'll be my job. And I'm excited to do it.
Does Sims, you anticipate Sims coming back, or is he going to graduate and go somewhere else?
I meet with him tomorrow morning, so I don't know that yet. I hate speaking for the players. You guys know that. Like, I think he's loved being here and loved his time here, but I haven't spoken with him.
Do you anticipate a lot of guys on Monday going in, though? Do you know some names already at this point that will enter on Monday?
No one's told me that they're going in. I don't spend a lot of time in conjecture. Or this person said this to this person. I mean, if people do, they do. And for some people, like as I said before, it might, some guys might not be playing here and they might want to go into the portal. I think I'll do my meetings with everybody, and they'll tell me what they think, and then that'll clean up I'll clean up my meetings with the guys, and we'll see what happens on Monday, and that'll kind of clean up, for me, the roster, and then I know kind of how much space I have, and then I'll go make appropriate decisions in terms of who's replacing who. So I think you guys have asked me a lot about the portal versus high school. But as I sit here and think about it, to me, it's more about I always want to take care and honor the guys that are here first. If guys decide to leave, then I'm going to go fix the problem because they left. I'm just not going to tell a guy here to leave so that I can go get somebody else. And that's I want to be the guy that I promised all the parents I am in recruiting. So now I will tell a player, if you want to start, you're not going to start here. That's their decision. But I don't tell people they have to leave. I want them if they want to be here and they want to be a part of this, then I want them to be here. So that's the balance. But I don't have any names right now. I mean, I might sit there and say, well, maybe him, but that's never done me any good either.
This year, we talked before the season about the fishbowl or whatever. Now that you have a year under your belt, other than maybe a reporter playing Christmas carols, what have you learned about maybe the culture of Nebraska football? And has anything surprised you about maybe coverage or just the day-to-day?
Yeah, I don't see very much of the coverage. Like every once in a while, my youngest daughter will say, like, Dad, there's a whole bunch of stuff on YouTube about you. And I'm like, oh, honey, don't listen to that, please. I think it's great. I really do. I think it's great. I've never walked down the street or gone somewhere and seen someone be rude to me. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to be a father. I'm going to be a coach. If anyone's mad at us with as hard as we work, then so be it. Like we're doing everything we can to get this moved in the right direction. And if anyone thinks that this is a 1-year deal, then God bless them. Like this is a build. Like this is a complete and total build. I'm not saying rebuild. I'm just saying we got to build this thing the right way and build the program. So I'm proud of what we've done. I'm proud of the work that all the coaches and players have put in. I think it's awesome that there's this much coverage. I think it's awesome. But, at your darkest moments, like, you're sitting there after that last game, and I wake up the next day, and I'm just crushed for those seniors. And, you get a text from Eric Crouch. You get a text from guys. When you kind of go past, like, hey, I'm saying something because it's on TV, and you really get to people who, even, when you really just get to what people really think. But, yeah, you might be like, how the heck do we have this many turnovers, Coach? But I think there's a lot of people that value the way we're trying to do it and do it kind of the old school way. When I'm sitting there at practice before the last game, and I've got, Coach Darlington, Coach Solich, and Coach Osborne all at practice, I think we're doing it the right way. So I think the amount of people that care, I think the fans are awesome. I think the support is awesome. I think everything about it is great. It's what we signed up for. I couldn't be happier having been here, having come here. It's been a great year for me. But I am on year 2, and I said after the Colorado game, we were 0-2. I said, this is kind of what you get when you hire me, right? You're just going to kind of try to do it the right way and not take quick fixes. And so, I think we got to 5-7. I could not tell you how disappointed I am that we're not in a bowl game. Could not tell you how soul-rockingly disappointed I am for our guys. But with that being said, I do believe, like when I was 6-6 at Temple in my second year, that not going to a bowl game ignited a fire within me and the players. And the next year we won 10 games. And I'm not making any predictions about next year. I'm just saying we will be a considerably better football team next year than we are this year.
Your one was a lot about setting the standard, establishing a process, instilling your culture. Now that you've had a year to do that, does anything kind of change going into year 2? Because it's not as big of a focus because you've kind of done that in year 1. Yeah,
it's like I said, when I was visiting with Reimer the other day, he was talking about how much easier it'll be for everyone, because they were flipping out, we have to do what? Everything was so new for them. Now everyone knows what to expect. I think the one key part, kind of what I was saying to Sam earlier, is I think you come out of this year and you look at this landscape. You look at playing at Nebraska, you're coaching at Nebraska. You look at the recruiting picture. You look at NIL and the transfer portal. You look at our stadium. You look at everything from what side. In a year where signals is really important, being on the visitor sideline is probably not the best thing in the world, where they can see you from the press box, to the wind, to the way we practice, to the class schedules. So to me, you go back and you're able to really say, okay, how do we maximize this situation, right? How do we make this the best it can be? But the biggest thing to me is everyone now kind of knows. They know the expectation. And I really think things become powerful when it goes from Coach Rhule's process or the coach's process to our process. And I just saw Jalen Lloyd on the way down here. I think he believes that this is his process and this is our process, and that's when you make the huge jump. So I expect us to make a huge jump this offseason and this year, because we now have stuff to look back on, and we have stuff to go back and say, okay, how do we fix it? That to me is the key to making another jump this year. I think it's.
Realistically, how many Huskers do you expect to be drafted, and how many Huskers do you expect to possibly make a pro team?
That's a great question. I think we'll probably have between 1 and 3 guys drafted, and I think maybe maybe 3 to 6 guys in camp, and I think we have a lot of blue collar tough guys. I think we have guys like Phelan Sanford who just down punts on the one all the time that NFL teams will bring into camp, and then they'll and then they'll have a chance. But I think Quentin will get drafted, and then maybe a couple other guys might get drafted, and some of these other guys are still waiting, making their decisions, so I think that would affect that. But probably that many.
You hit the road right away recruiting.
Friday's the day. I usually hang back a little bit the first week. Just again because of the portal, because of all those things. But even back in the old days, I would hang back because I could only see each person one time. I'll hang back a little bit the first week just to be around here, but I'll get out some. But yeah, we'll hit the road Friday. All right.